Hey guys, welcome to the channel. It's Craig Patterson for DS Sports as always, and here we're going to round up the Betfred Cup. It happened at the weekend, it's happened for the 2 weekends before that, but it's been a brilliant 2 weeks. Some surprises, some really good results, some surprises through to the next round, some teams who have faltered dramatically. We'll look to round it all up, we'll go through the groups one by one, we'll go through the tables, some key results, and who has gone through to join the top four teams in Scottish football. Let's get into it. So it all started 3 Fridays ago now. Hearts and Dundee United played out the opening fair in front of the BT Sport cameras. It was a 1-1 draw there in Group A. Hearts won the penalty shootout, but how did Group A end up? Well, Hearts did go on and take the group winner spot. 9 points, no defeats though. 9 points out of 12, but still didn't suffer defeat. East Fife amazingly came second and went through, as we'll see in a moment. They would get an incredible tie. We'll come to that in a moment. Dundee United would surprisingly finish third, with Stennismuir and Cowdenbeath bringing up the rear with 3 points between them. So Hearts started off with 2 points out of 3 against Dundee United before they beat Stennismuir, and then took the match day off and then beat Stennismuir in the 4th match day before losing a shootout to East Fife. We'll go back to how important that is in a minute. We've kind of touched on it already, but there we go. A surprise result down in Fife, and one that was incredibly important too. East Fife, like I say, had 8 points, but they went off to the poorest of starts. They lost 2-0 at Fife rivals Cowdenbeath, although not in terms of the league status, League 2 against League 1, but still, nonetheless, 2 Fife sides going at it on the opening match day. They would then come back after missing the second match day, and they would beat Stennismuir 2-0 at home, so they went back to the 0 goal difference before they went to Tannadice and did the shock of all the shocks in Group A. 2-0 was how it finished against Dundee United at Tannadice, so a brilliant result for them, and it meant that they had the platform to potentially leapfrog them, as Dundee United didn't play in the final match day, and they did so by winning the shootout and getting 2 out of 3 points against Premiership side Hearts. So that's how they got through. That's how they got through to the last 16 of the Betfred Cup. We'll touch on that at the very end, and who they got, it's a big one. We'll find out later. Dundee United 7 points, like I say. They got the 2 points on the opening day. Sorry, they got the 1 point on the opening day, should I say, before beating Stennismuir and then Cowdenbeath in relatively easy fashion before losing against East Fife. So a tough one for them. A bit of an iffy one going into the new campaign where they're fancied to go up this time. We've been saying that for 3 years now, but surely they've got to be closer than ever, especially with their local rivals from down the road in the same championship. Then we had Steny and Cowdenbeath. Steny getting their only win on the final day against Cowdenbeath, while Cowdenbeath got that 2-0 win against East Fife on the opening day. So that's how it ended in Group A. It was a pretty fun one, not a good one if you're a Dundee United fan, but a pretty good one if you're from East Fife. Group B, and you had Ross County and St Johnstone at the forefront of this one. 2 very different campaigns, however. Ross County, their maximum 12 points out of 12, only 2 goals conceded, whilst they also scored 11. A brilliant turnout for them, a good campaign for them. It started off at home. They played Angus side Montrose, who were crept into the playoffs in League 1 last year, but they ended up beating them 4-1 in a really easy win before a 4-0 win away at Brechin, a League 2 side, and then the 2-1 away win at Saints, a big one for them, and one that basically ended Saints' campaign, as we'll come back to in a minute. And then they finished off with a 2-0 win against Forfar, a really important one on that one, as it could have affected either side. Who would have gone through, who might not have gone through, but in the end, County got the win, they got the maximum points tally, and they're through without really any hassle. In second place, Forfar Athletic went through as the best second place side in the competition after a brilliant campaign. It started off really well. 3-0 wins against Brechin, 3-0 win against Brechin, and then a 4-1 win away at Montrose. got them off to the best possible start before they lost at County and then beat their Premiership visitors. St Johnstone beaten 2-1 at Station Park, a brilliant result. A match report of that one, and also the Hearts Dundee United one that we talked about earlier on the website dssports.org.uk. A link will be in the description. So yeah, a brilliant end to the campaign for Forfar. Played a really good game that game. Saints kind of whimpered a wee bit. We'll come back to them in just a moment, but first we have to talk about the other side that finished above them. Montrose finished with 5 points, so their 5 points coming at home to St Johnstone. St Johnstone had 2 visits to Angus and got absolutely nothing out of it apart from the goal against Forfar. That was it. A 1-0 home defeat from the Saints against Montrose. Montrose winning at home before they lost against Forfar, then beat... So Montrose lost against County, beat St Johnstone, then lost to Forfar, so the 2 defeats they had were 4-1 defeats. And then they got 2 points away at Brechin, another Angus derby, and one which they felt they should have got 3 points from. They did take the lead, they were pegged back, but won the 3rd point on the penalty shootout. And then we come to St Johnstone. 3 points out of 12, only 1 win and 3 defeats. Yep, the 1-0 away defeat at Montrose, the 2-1 home defeat to County, before a 4-0 home win, convincing home win against Brechin, and then that defeat at Station Park gave Tommy Wright a huge amount of headaches going into the next season. Saints fans not very happy with the summer's business. Stevie May, will he come in the door? There's talk about other names coming in. Jason Cummins was in there at some point. We'll see what happens there. We'll look forward to the Premiership in a further episode. We'll hopefully get that uploaded at some point before the kick-off on Saturday. But yeah, a pretty horrible campaign for Saints, and hopefully for the Perth side they'll be able to turn it around at some point in the near future. And the only team they finished above in this group were Brechin. Yeah, and they only got their 1st point against Montrose on the final day, so yeah, a contrast of the 2 seeds in this group. Forfar high flying and ready for the new season and ready for their next round opponents. We'll talk about them very shortly. So we go into Group C. Group C, we saw Hibs eventually run away with this one. They started off quite poorly though, as they only got a point at League 2 side Stirling Albion, Kevin Rutkovich's Stirling Albion, and they managed to get the majority of the points through the penalty shootout. It was a 5-4 shootout win for them after a 1-1 score draw after the 90 minutes. So Hibs finished on 11 points, Alloa finished on 2nd on 7, Arbroath on 6, Elgin on 3 and Stirling on 1. So it very much went as the table of all the teams in Scotland would go, with the established championship side in Alloa, although they got off to finishing 2nd, although they did get off to a very slow start. They missed out the opening day before they lost the shootout at home to League 2 side Elgin City, so a very poor start for them before they went to Easter Road and lost 2-0, and then they eventually got going with a 2-1 home win against local rival Stirling Albion. They're very close, that one, 5-10 minute drive, and then came back from 2-1 down after they did go 1-0 up. They then went down 2-1, but then won 3-2, 2 Alan Troughton goal to give Alloa a 3-2 win. It wouldn't be enough to get them through with 7 points, not far off it, goal difference the separator I think, and then 7 points, but they got there eventually, got about what they expected, and it's going to be a tough championship campaign for Peter Grant's men. Arbroath finished 3rd with 6 points, very good start, 2-0 win at home to Elgin, before a 6-0 thumping at Stirling. Amazing to think, Stirling drawn at home to Hibs 1 minute, losing 6-1 to a fellow part-time club next, albeit a far greater part-time club as they showed in that one. But then in the end, Arbroath went down 3-0 at Easter Road before going down 3-2 in that clash against Alloa that we talked about there, and pretty much ending what was at one point a qualified campaign for Arbroath, for Dick Campbell's men, but not to be this season as they go into the second tier season for a very long time. Elgin with 3 points. It was a 3-0 home win against Stirling Albion, their divisional rivals, with Stirling finished bottom with the single point they got on the home day against Hibs. Group D, Dundee and Cali Thistle were the front runners in this one, and it did prove to be that way, especially when the last game in the Betfred Cup group stages was between the two sides to decide who would go through. There was a scenario in which they could have both gone through had a penalty shootout occurred in that game, but a 1-0 win for Dundee in the final day meant that they would progress at the expense of Cali Thistle. With Dundee taking top spot with 10 points, Cali Thistle not quite good enough for a second place spot with 7, Peterhead finished with 6, above Cove Rangers with 4 and Raith Rovers with 3. A very interesting campaign, as was previously expected. So it all started off, Dundee went to Raith Rovers, won 3-0 before a 3-2 shootout win after a goalless draw at the Balmoral Stadium in Cove Rangers meant that Dundee only took 2 out of 3 points against the newly promoted Scottish Football League side. They would then win another shootout against Peterhead, this time at home, after Peterhead had a brilliant chance to snatch a win and snatch all 3 at Dens Park, and then eventually they would seal it all after a 1-0 win against Cali Thistle like we talked about. Cali Thistle, 7 points for them. They started off with only 1 point out of 3 after an 11-10 shootout defeat. A miraculous one there, but not quite as miraculous as what you might see later on. After a goalless draw at Balmuir, and then they would eventually kickstart their campaign with a 4-1 home win against Raith Rovers. A really good one for them, brilliant performance that was up there. A 3-2 home win against Cove gave them the platform to go into this TV showdown at Dens, but they would falter at the final hurdle, meaning they didn't quite go through. They topped the group. They topped the Free Highland side, as was pretty much expected, the second of which, Peterhead, came in behind them at 6 points. So they started off coming from an early goal behind against Cove Rangers at home to win 2-1, before winning the shootout against Cali Thistle, losing the shootout to Dundee, and then losing to Raith Rovers. So a really an opportunity there for Peterhead, one could argue, especially since Raith Rovers hadn't got a Scooby before that one. A 3-1 win for Raith Rovers gave them their only 3 points, and they finished bottom of the group. But in between them, Cove Rangers had a brilliant camp. Well, they had a slow start to the campaign. They lost to Peterhead. They got a good result. Many would argue actually, and getting the point against Dundee, but losing the shootout there. They then lost to Cali Thistle, 3-2 defeat. So they went up there and gave it a go, but not quite enough for anything. And then a 3-0 home win, an emphatic home win against Raith Rovers, basically piled misery on the Kirkcaldy side as they condemned them to the bottom of the group there, as Cove leapfrogged them on the final day. So Dundee made it through, Raith propped up the table, and it kind of lived up to expectation in the end in Group D. Moving into the south, and Motherwell had a perfect campaign in this one. 12 points out of 12, 0 goals conceded, and many scored in the process. So it started off, they beat Queen of the South 3-0 at Palmerston, before a 4-0 home win on the BT Sport cameras. A match report of that one is on the website, ready for you to view. Go ahead and check it out. It was a great performance by Motherwell, and they continued that 2-0 win away at Dumbarton before a 4-0 home win against Annan meant they went perfect, no goals conceded, 12 points out of 12, and safely into the next round of the Betfred Cup and ready for the new season. Next up, Morton, 8 points for them. Did manage to go through as one of the best place, second place group teams, should I say. Missed the opening match day, but started off the group with a 6-1 home win against Dumbarton. 5-1 it was at half time, might have been 5-0 actually, double check. I think it was 5-0 because I think it did go to 6-0, and then Dumbarton revived themselves a little bit. Nowhere near close enough, however, and then went down 4-0 at Fir Park before a 5-0 away win at in Dumfriesshire at Galabank against Arden Athletic preceded a 4-3 penalty shootout win at home to Queen of the South after a really entertaining 3-3 draw on the final match day. Gave them the 8 points ahead of Queen of the South, who finished with 6 points in third place. Started off with a home defeat at Motherwell, won the shootout after another 3-3 draw against Annan. This time they won it 5-4. Then they won 4-1 against Dumbarton. They were 1-0 down after 8 minutes, but within 23 minutes they were 4-1 up. It was a quite remarkable turnaround there, and one that must have been pretty ugly if you're a Suns fan. And they lost the shootout on the final day, like we said, against Morton, so that's how they got to 6. Dumbarton were free, they're only 3 points, coming against Annan Athletic on the opening day, a 1-0 away win there before some pretty emphatic defeats. And then Annan, with only the solitary point they got at Palmerston in the 5-4 shootout loss after the 3-3 entertaining draw at Palmerston. So yeah, brilliant campaign for Motherwell, a good one for Morton, who go through as one of the best second place sides, and in another one that went in order in the end of the hierarchy of the teams in the Football League. Go on to Group F, and if you lived in Glasgow you wouldn't have had to travel far for any of these games. So we had Partick Thistle, the Maryhill side, coming out on top. 10 points they would gather from the 12 they got, their only blemish being a 2-2 away draw at Hamilton, the Premiership side in the group, the top seeds in the group, before they lost 6-5 in the shootout. Rafael De Vita coming on as a substitute, missing the crucial penalty there. The match report is online, ready for you to read. Go and check out on the website, and again, link in the description. But yeah, so apart from that, it was perfect for Partick Thistle. Albeit somewhat narrow victories everywhere you went. So 1-0 win against Airdrie, 2-1 away win at Queen's Park, and before a 3-2 home win against Clyde. So 1-goal wins, but nonetheless got the job done. 10 points in the bag and ready to go for the last 16 of the Betfred Cup, along with the new season ahead. Hamilton with 9 points went through as one of the best second place teams of all the 8 groups. I think they were second of all the teams behind Forth Athletic in the top in Group B, as we talked about. They started off pretty poorly, actually, very poorly. They had a home tie against Queen's Park, expecting a really good start, and only got 1 out of 3 points. They lost the shootout to the Mount Florida side, and then got going away at Broadwood, 3-1. Sorry, it was Ochilview, actually, should I say. I keep forgetting that. It was Ochilview due to Broadwood pitch resurfacing going on there. So 3-1 away win there, and then the penalty shootout win against Partick Thistle, and then they would come back from two early goals down on the final match day away at the Excelsior Stadium in Airdrie to win 3-2 and get to 9 points, a crucial tally for them. Airdrie and Queen's Park, League 1 and League 2 respectively, finished with 5 points. Airdrie, their points come in 3-2 away win at Clyde, and a home shootout win after a 2-2 draw against Queen's Park. 12-11 it finished there. Sorry, that wasn't on the final match day, it was on match day 4. I've got my notes slightly mixed around here. But yeah, quite a miraculous one there. 12-11 going into a second cycle, must have been. So, and it looks like with these new penalty shootout, with the new rules and the penalties where we're really enforcing goalkeepers stick to the line, it's a lot easier to score penalties nowadays. But nonetheless, Airdrie with 5 points, Queen's Park also with 5 points. Their only points coming in shootouts. Shootout defeat to Airdrie, shootout wins against Hamilton and Clyde. So that's how they got to 5 points. Only lost 1 game to Partick Thistle, and that was by a narrow margin. So 5 points with a -1 goal difference, can't really go wrong. Well, I mean, you could, some would argue, won that positive goal difference, but it didn't quite happen on this occasion. And Clyde only got their last point after losing a shootout against Queen's Park on the final match day. They lost 3-1 against Hamilton, 3-2 against Airdrie, 3-2 against Clyde. So they gave it a go, just didn't quite get the rub of the green there, and ended up being leapfrogged by every team in that group. Partick Thistle go through, so do Hamilton, and some good results elsewhere, full of shootouts. The penultimate group, letter-wise Group G, saw Livingston, Ayr and Falkirk in this one. This was a very interesting group with three really highly ranked clubs in terms of, you know, their status in Scottish football, but certainly not if you're Falkirk, who spend this season in the third tier. Kind of amazing to think a team of that quality when they Scottish Cup finalists not too long ago, after they lost out to Cali Thistle in extra time. I'm pretty sure it was James Vincent with the winner there, now that I remember. But anyway, we're going off on a tangent. They contested it with Stranraer and Berwick. We'll talk about Berwick in a minute, why their campaign was so bad. Livingston, however, they topped the group and were the only ones to go through from the group with 11 points. Their only blemish, they come on the open day against Falkirk away from home. They were 1-0 ahead, got paid back, and then had to play the shootout in which they won. So that's what gave them the good start. They then played Ayr United, another one for the match reports. That's on the website on the second match day, the second Tuesday night. 2-1 it finished there. They played really quite well in that game and got hit with a freak early goal second half in a game where Ayr really came back into a really nice game there. But nonetheless, 2-1 it finished there, a late Livy goal winning it there, before Livy would then go to Stranraer and only win 2-1. So good effort from the Stranraer team. We'll come back to them in a second. And Livy would then hammer Berwick 5-0 at home to finish off the campaign, seal their spot in the last 16 and get ready for the new campaign ahead in the top flight. Ayr was second, only by goal difference however, ahead of Falkirk, who both had 7 points. Ayr started off with a 7-0 victory away at Berwick, before losing to Livy. They then beat Falkirk at home 2-1, a very good result there, before they had the chance to go through as a second place team in their own right, but through it. A 2-2 home draw against Stranraer preceded a 5-6 shootout defeat to the fellow Ayrshire side, the League One Ayrshire side. So Ian McCall's side had the opportunity for an extra match day, for an extra game in August, and they didn't take it. If they had the penalty shootout, they might have got there. They probably would have got there. In the end, they didn't. Falkirk, like I say, 7 points as well. Lost out on the opening shootout to Livingston before only getting a 1-0 win against Stranraer. I say only, Stranraer did really well in this section, as we've just stated. They would then lose to United and then beat Berwick 3-0 at home. A rather tame victory in terms of all the victories that teams have had against Berwick in this section, as we're just about to find out. Stranraer, 5 points for them. Good campaign all in all. So 1-0 defeat at Falkirk, not too bad at all. They'll be competing against each other in League One, still kind of amazing to think. 6-0 win against Berwick at Sayre Park. Pretty long cross-country trip for Berwick, but nonetheless a pretty horrible one. 6-0 it finished there. Stranraer then welcomed Livy 2-1. A pretty good effort. Didn't let the Premiership team run away with it. And then obviously the shootout win against Ayr United, propping it all off. Berwick Rangers played 4, lost 4, scored 0 and conceded 21 in this group. It was never going to be easy for them. It's been a pretty horrible time. It's now, I believe, 51 goals that they've conceded since they last scored one. Back in, I believe it was February or March. I think it might well have been February. But it's been a horrible time for Berwick Rangers. Definitely not a certainty to come back up, I'm afraid. But we'll see how they get on down in the Lowland League. But nevertheless, 0 points in that group as Livy progress from it. And finally, the most fascinating group of them all, Group H. Dunfermline took this one in a group where they should have got out of it. They very easily could have finished top, but they were expected to have St Mirren on their heels. In the end, Albion were on their heels. 9 points for Dunfermline. Their wins coming away at St Mirren 3-2, 6-0 at home to Albion, East End Park, a 1-0 away defeat at Edinburgh City. We'll see why that was so amazing in a second. And then a 4-0 home win against Lowland League side East Kilbride, Lowland League champions East Kilbride, giving them merit. That's how they got the 9 points. Albion with 7. That's quite amazing, especially when you consider they did lose 6-0 to Dunfermline. They opened out against Lowland League champions East Kilbride. They won 1-0 at K Park, losing 6-0, missed the third match day, and then lost out to St Mirren in a shootout at Clifton Hill. 4-3 it finished in that shootout after a scoreless draw, and then they beat their League 2 rivals Edinburgh City 2-1 in the final match day to leapfrog St Mirren into second place. St Mirren finished with 6. They only won 1 game in 90 minutes, and believe it or not, they only scored 3 times, should I say. They only scored 3 times in this group. They scored twice against Dunfermline in a 2-3 defeat, and then won 1-0 against Edinburgh City. League 2, albeit third place team Edinburgh City, but nonetheless you would have expected more from St Mirren. But then they went down in a goalless draw, penalty shootout defeat to East Kilbride at K Park. Quite an incredible win for East Kilbride. And then they went into another shootout against Albion. Quite remarkable. Second bottom in the league, in League 2, the second worst team statistically in the Football League of Scottish Football, but did win the shootout on that occasion, 4-3 it finished after the spot kicks. East Kilbride, 5 points for them, brilliant campaign, one that provides Stuart Malcolm's team with a lot of optimism and everyone at East Kilbride. Lost 1-0 to Albion in opening day, then got their 2 points against St Mirren, a brilliant result, historic result. Then went to Edinburgh City and got 3 points there in a 1-0 win, but then went out 4-0 to Dunfermline in a game which, I mean, you could have argued if they won that game they would have finished top. It's quite amazing. We could have had East Kilbride winning the group with 8 points, Albion with 7, and Dunfermline and St Mirren with 6. It would have been quite incredible, but wasn't to be. And Edinburgh City, the 3 points they got were against the group winners Dunfermline. It was only 3 points that Dunfermline didn't get. So quite amazing. A lot of surprises, a lot of entertainment in that group, but Dunfermline go through. And so we get to the last 16 draw. This took place after Dundee versus Kelly Thistle last Sunday, and we got some really interesting ties and ones with some titans of the game would fish off against some relative minnows. So in the end it goes like this. So we start on the Friday night, 16th of August. It's a quarter to 8 kickoff, 7:45. Motherwell versus Hearts. This is quite an interesting matchup. Two teams finished top in their sections, finished 6th and 8th in the last season's campaign respectively, and two teams who have done some really good business in the transfer window. So that's going to be one where form in the early part of the season may well dictate that. Saturday, 3 o'clock kickoffs. There are 6 of them. Celtic against Dunfermline, a good tie for Dunfermline in terms of some money going to Parkhead. One could have argued it was a TV game, wasn't to be, and so Celtic will very much be fancy to go through to the last 8 and look for their 10th part of the quad treble, 10th trophy in a row for the Hoops. Dundee against Aberdeen. Aberdeen's arguably shortest journey they could have had, other than probably Forfar, believe it or not. But yeah, two titans of the Scottish game. This could go. This Aberdeen will look at that and think they should be winning this. Of course they should. But how will Dundee start the new campaign in the Championship? Obviously playing lower quality opposition, but they might well be able to get going. So we'll see how that one plays out. Forfar against Livingston. Forfar could fancy this. But the problem is they're playing against a team who also play on an AstroTurf pitch, one that had caught out St Johnstone in a way. Might not have been seen as an excuse, but nonetheless, Forfar against Livingston, a really good tie there. Forfar could fancy it, but Livingston will definitely be the favourites. Hibernian against Morton, another good one. David Hopkins' new side going to Easter Road, and yep, two good campaigns. Hibs will fancy it though. Another one that could potentially be dictated by form. But Killie against Hamilton, so Killie into the fray at home to Hamilton. Killie, a terrible European exit, pretty shocking by all regards, especially when Connah's Quay were in the final of the Challenge Cup. I mean, one could argue that's pretty good. Like, you know, they went through some of Scotland's championship sides, they did better than them, but ultimately fell. But you would have expected Killie to get through pretty easily, especially after doing all the hard work. So, good chance for Hamilton to maybe like stamp on the parade a bit more of Kilmarnock. And then what was last season a championship clash, Partick Thistle against Ross County. Good tie, I would say. This is a very interesting tie. Partick Thistle had a really good campaign in the Betfred Cup the last couple of weeks, and I would say have turned it around pretty well. Made some half decent signings, done some good business with Gary Caldwell still at the helm. Ross County though, perfect through the match days, so a 50-50 there, but you would fancy Ross County, obviously as a top flight team. And then, well, this is probably the easiest one to call, but a brilliant one if you're in East Fife. East Fife against Rangers. Quite remarkable, this one. Rangers should get through this comfortably, and I highly imagine they would. This is Sunday 3 o'clock kickoff, so television, and some really good money for East Fife, and some really good optimism going into the new season. I mean, you've got that weekend, Forfar and East Fife are meant to play each other at Station Park. They'll play on the following Tuesday. It could be in the last day of the Betfred Cup, but there would have to be two very big shocks, especially that one at East Fife. So that rounds up the Betfred Cup for the time being. It will be back in 2 weekends time, like I say, Friday the 16th to Sunday the 18th of August. Oh, it's been a brilliant 2 weeks, like I say, some brilliant results, some interesting results, some Premiership teams needing to improve, some teams overall that are needing to improve, some teams who have exceeded expectations. That's all from me today, tonight, whenever you're watching it. We'll be back soon with our preview to the new season of Scottish football. We'll be back. I'll see you guys soon. Check out the website, like, comment and subscribe to the channel. We'll see you guys very soon.